Islam. Peace and love, peace hotep. This is January 22nd, 2013, Canaanland Moorish class. We're just gonna start up with we gotta get those bills in. So the first thing, Iraqable Togo Family, in association with Otis Promotion, presents Ethiopian Movements. Topic: Humanity and Morality. Saturday, January 26, 2013, at the Party Hall, 4278 Western Road, Unit 1, south of Steeles. This is just a little show performance with some of the local artists, right? So we got Otis I, we got Iron Sheik on there, Fireness, Lady Tremor, Jack Kettle, Cultureites, Firechild, Shatta, Kasha Black, Iraqable Togo. We got Brother Fury, Mag T. So again, just stuff that happens in Canaanland all the time. Brothers and sisters coming together, whether they're gonna do poetry show or whatever, right? So that's this Saturday. So if you're free up this Saturday, 4278 Western Road, Unit 1, south of Steeles, and the place is called the Party Hall, and that's this Saturday. All right, got that out the way. Next, Sunday is going to be one of those weekends this weekend. Sunday, January 27th, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. the I Am Courage Grand Opening Expo. Kupigana and Gumi, Self-Defense, Warrior Science, Rites of Passage. Courage Warriors can be contacted at iamcourage.webs.com or 647-748-MONK, Monk, 647-748-MONK. The address for the grand opening of I Am Courage, Kupigana and Gumi Self-Defense Warrior Science Center is 1704 Eglinton Avenue West. Develop the courage to accomplish anything: self-defense, self-discipline, self-respect, self-control, reconnecting with cultural roots, self-mastery, goal setting, and achieving. The class schedule for I Am Courage: 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 5 to 6 p.m. youth beginners, 6 to 7 p.m. youth intermediate and advanced, 7 to 8 p.m. adult beginners, 8 to 9 p.m. adult intermediate and advanced. Saturdays, 1 to 2 p.m. youth, and 2 to 3 p.m. adult. 6 to 7 p.m. youth beginner, 7 to 8 youth intermediate / advanced, 8 to 9 adult beginner / intermediate. And Sunday, 11 to 1 p.m. Courage Fight Team, and that's invite only. So that's for the more serious students out there. 3 to 5 p.m. adult beginner intermediate, 5 to 7 p.m. youth beginner intermediate, and 7:30 to 9 p.m. martial arts movie night / studies. Again, if you want more information, you can go to iamcourage.webs.com or you can call 647-748-MONK, M-O-N-K. And again, Sunday, January 27, 2013, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. I Am Courage grand opening. So you already know, we'll just get the logo on there so you already know who it is. Brother Adiza L, using his skills in Kupigana and Gumi to assist in the uplifting of fallen humanity, and also using the temple using the fact that we do have a temple, you know, and he's acquired his space, one of the first people to acquire space in the temple to get some stuff done other than quote unquote temple activity, right? So that's this Sunday. Lastly, this is a little, well, not too far away, but February 3rd, 2013, Canaanland Moors lecture. This is part of the Rethinking Black History Month lecture series. And it's going to be at same location, MSTA, at 1704 Eglinton Avenue West. And this is going out to the conscious and unconscious community of Toronto. Come and hear the truth about your nationality and your birthrights. The choice is yours. Nationalize or vaporize is the title of the lecture. And that's going to be 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. For information, you could contact 647-748-6664. 647-748-6664. And the donation is going to be 10 notes for this event. Also, too, keep in mind that the Rethinking Black History Month lecture series is also going to include Grand Sheikh Nature El Bey, Brother Asir, the Duke of Tears, Professor I Self, Brother Denham L, Brother Jelani Bey, Kenyu Umar Bey, Heru Ranasi L, and I'm pretty sure we're going to get some more. Oh, can't forget Sister Alzara Bey. She's going to do something on the Mormon Moorish connection, and that's probably going to be in March. So keep your ears to the street, because you know Canaanland Moors, the active never passive. So let's get down to business for today. Yesterday's paper, Monday, January 21st, 2013. This is an article by Jessica Murphy of 24 newspaper. Chief Spence sticks to hunger strike demands. So we're just gonna go a little bit into the idle no more, just because that's what last class was, and then there were some upcoming things that came up in the news that we're just gonna touch on quick fast. So the article goes: Atawaspicat Chief Teresa Spence says she's lost more than 30 pounds over the past 5 weeks and will continue to refuse solid foods until the Prime Minister calls a nation-to-nation meeting between all levels of government and First Nations. I go day by day and I'm still waiting for that meeting, Spence said during an interview aired Sunday on CTV's Question Period. It has to be all leaders, not just the national chief, Sean Atleo, she said. The chief of the Northern Ontario Reserve of some 1,500 people, who has been surviving on fish broth and tea since December 11th, in a bid to force a meeting with First Nations leaders, Prime Minister Stephen Harper and Governor General David Johnston, also lashed out over the government's release of scathing audit of the Reserve's finances. The audit of the beleaguered First Nations balance sheets found little or no supporting paperwork for more than $100 million in funds it received over a 6-year period ending in 2011. Once complete, the audit had to be released by the feds within a 90-day window. But Spence said that she felt the timing a few days before a January 11th meeting between Harper, Atleo, and other chiefs, and not long before the government's own deadline, was a broken promise. I mentioned to government officials, it's good to see where we need to improve, Spence said of the audit. I told them we will comply with the recommendations, but we don't want you to use this against us. The independent audit also slapped Aboriginal Affairs for inadequate financial controls of the money it gave the band. Spence, along with chiefs from Manitoba, Ontario, Saskatchewan, and the Northwest Territories, boycotted the January 11th meeting because the Governor General didn't attend. We didn't ask for a working group meeting. We asked for a nation-to-nation meeting. Why is the Prime Minister and the Governor General afraid to meet with us, she asked. Spence attended a ceremonial event that same evening with the Governor General at Rideau Hall, but dismissed it as a photo op. On Friday, Manitoba chiefs said they'd asked the Assembly of the First Nations, the AFN executive, to request another meeting with the Prime Minister on January 24th. The Prime Minister's office said they had yet to receive a formal request and that the next meeting will be between Harper and the AFN's national chief. Right? Now they want to have a nation-to-nation meeting, and the individuals that they want to connect with is Governor General David Johnston and Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Right? Now what has to be understood to people who aren't in this jurisdiction, that when you go on the Governor General website, right? So when you go on the Governor General website, it clearly, specifically states that the Governor General is Canada's de facto head of state, right? So if the Governor General's office is de facto, right? Why would they want to meet with the so-called people who are indigenous, right? Why would they go out of their way to set up meetings to go meet with these people, right, that have this issue with this bill that's, you know, it's pretty much passed already, right? And if they are requesting a nation-to-nation meeting between all levels of government and the First Nations, why is it that they're under the assumption, Chief Spence and all these so-called, right, qualified, so-called First Nations? Why are these so-called First Nations, who aren't really First Nations because they're late people, wanting to meet nation to nation, when, you know, we dealt with this before? This is common knowledge that Moors put out there, right? Canada, CIK number 0000230098. Business address, Canadian Embassy, 1746 Massachusetts Avenue, Northwest, Washington, D.C. So if Canada is a private corporation listed under the Canadian Embassy with an office in Washington, D.C., then obviously that's not the nation. So for them, peace, fam, Islam. So for them to say that they want to meet nation to nation with a nation that's actually corporate, then they're running a fraud, because Canada's not a nation. Private corporations, right here, United States Security and Exchange Commission website. So you don't say this is coming out of Kudrow's mouth, right? Canada, CIK number 0000230098. Business office, business address, Canadian Embassy, 1746 Massachusetts Avenue, Northwest, Washington, D.C. 20036. So anybody, if you got some friends that are so-called indigenous people or whatever, Indians, First Nations, etc., you maybe need to pass that information to them so they can know that they're not really dealing with quote-unquote the nation, right? They need to also recognize that they're not First Nations. They're second, third, fourth, fifth nations. The First Nations in the Americas is the Moroccans that were born here, right? So to qualify that, we go to chapter 47 in the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Egypt, the capital empire and the dominion of Africa. The inhabitants of Africa are the descendants of the ancient Canaanites from the land of Canaan. Old man Cush and his family are the first inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan. His father Ham and his family were second. Then came the word Ethiopia, which means the demarcation line of the dominion of Amexem, the first true and divine name of Africa. The dividing of the land between the father and the son. The dominion of Cush, northeast and southwest Africa, and northwest and southwest was his father's dominion of Africa. In later years, many of their brethren from Asia and the Holy Lands joined them. This is key right here. The Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit northwest Africa, they were the founders and are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire. With their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren who sojourned from the land of Canaan seeking new homes, their dominion and inhabitation extended from northeast and southwest Africa, across the great Atlantis, even onto the present North, South, and Central America, and also Mexico and the Atlantis Islands, before the great earthquake which caused the great Atlantic Ocean. So these Moabites, with their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren who sojourned from the land of Canaan, their dominion and inhabitation extended from northeast and southwest Africa across the great Atlantis, even unto the present North, South, Central America, and also Mexico and Atlantis Islands, which they call today Caribbean or the West Indies. When Noble Jwali asks us how old is our flag, it says that the Moroccan flag is 10,000 years old, and then in another booklet it says 50,000 years old, right? So for 50,000 years, these people called Moabites of ancient day, which are called known as Moors today, have been in this land. Brother Trevor Hamilton Hill at the Taj and Daweed lecture was saying that while he was, because he drives truck, so when he was up north, he connected with the Aboriginals there, and they said, yeah, we recognize quote unquote black people as indigenous, right? Don't really know exactly where, but they were having like one of those I don't know more protests, whatever. So he just engaged them, right? So it's not like they don't know, right? But the other thing too is that when we go back to the article, we're talking about Sean Atleo, Chief Spence, and then when you check all these chiefs that are so-called the First Nations chiefs, majority of them European names, fair skin, etc., etc.
I noticed that.
Right? Yeah. Right. So there's been a deliberate, like wiping out of history as far as the Aboriginal people on this side being recognized as dark-skinned people. Right, and this is something that's systematic, right? So to go further into this systematic whitening out of our history or whatever, Europeanizing of our history, right? We're gonna go to some pictures that were drawn, coat of arms, etc., from the time of when the Moors were ruling in Europe, right? So this picture is the entrance of Muhammad II, and then if you look at this picture, right, you see that majority of the people with the fezzes on are dark-skinned people in this picture, right? Like majority of them, right? But then by the time we get to the Moors leaving Spain, this is how they're saying Moors are looking. Right? This is when they're leaving. So there's a definite, deliberate, purposeful agenda of certain people to make claims that they're not really supposed to be making, right? But the only reason that they can make these claims is because Moors want to be Negro, black, colored, African, etc. So, you know, it's like if we don't claim it, then whoever else is going to claim it, regardless of who they are. You know, this is why you're going to go around the world and you'll see all these different cultures and they wear fezzes. You know, Hindu culture, Europeans, you know, in the native, so-called Native Americans, you know, if you see, you know, the lodges, you know, all of them have Arabic names on their fezzes and all that type of stuff, because we didn't make a claim. We accepted that, you know, we came over here on a slave ship, and, you know, so we lost our culture and we need to get our culture back, and the Europeans stole our culture. How are we going to get it back if they stole it, and whatever, when it doesn't really go like that, you know. But we're not going to know unless we do our own due diligence and clean up this mess. This is why Noble Drew Ali made the statement to the Moors that 50 years is going to go by, and then 50 more years are going to go by, and you might not even know that I came to you, right? Because of the inside people who were around him that didn't do what they were supposed to do, and it's 100 years later, and we just got the first temple in Canada, 100 years later, right? Which they're not supposed to be happening. There should have been Moors from over there that came up here, established that 1928, 29. And then it should have been a standard, no different than that church over here that's been there since the 1930s. That governmental, pseudo-governmental office that's been sitting there for however long, right? All these schools and all that's in this jurisdiction, right? That's been here. Temple should have been here just like all those stuff are here, right? You know, and again, we know why that didn't happen, which is why it's so important for new people coming in to, if you take this information in and then it vibrates with you on a certain frequency, that you go get to tell some people about this, because we've been chill in our responsibility to go free our people. You know, because, oh well, you know, they're on a certain level and you got to meet them on their level, and those type of talks, right? When nobody else is looking at it like that, right? When it's time to know thyself,
Position.
right?
That's what it is.
When it's time to know thyself, like,
position when I try to teach people.
yeah, right.
They, no, that was then, this is now. I hear,
Yeah,
what do you mean that was then, this is
Right.
now? Tell me when it changed.
Right,
I can't
right.
tell you. But
Right.
that's what I hear a lot. So
Yeah.
I try to wake people up.
right. And that's a sign to let us know that Noble Drew Ali was right, because he said he came for the unborn and the children. He didn't come for adults, right? Like this book, the 101 questionnaire. The 101 questionnaire is called Quran Questions for Moorish Americans, but the original was called Quran Questions for Moorish Children. But adults reading it, right?
I was thinking about that as well. What he really did establish, because it really dawned on me recently that what he established really was for children, but it goes to show you that adults have the mentality.
The mentality.
Of children just going into the movement.
All right, right. So which leads us to King Alfred Plan. The executive order authorized October 1969 to counteract the minority. And a minor is a child in law, right? Like, exactly what you're saying. So he knew from back then that Negro, black, colored, whatever you calling yourself, crayons, means that you're a minor, and you have to correct that first before you know, do anything else. This is why all of these African, Pan-African groups or whatever, founders, majority of them were members of the temple. Because they had to do, that's the first step, proclaim your nationality. After that, you can do whatever you want after that. But if you don't do anything else, you have to, at least, the least thing you should do is proclaim your nationality, right? So when they do that, you know, so they do that and then they put it to people without giving them the full perspective, right? Like how Elijah Muhammad put it on Muhammad Ali, you know, like that was a nationality proclamation that he did, right? Don't call me Cassius Clay, call me Muhammad Ali, because that's a slave name and all that, right? He didn't have any paperwork, go down to the court, file any paperwork or whatever. He did that right there. As soon as they asked him, yo, what's your name? Muhammad Ali. Yeah, but Cassius Clay, I'll knock all you guys out if you call me Cassius Clay, right? Don't call me Cassius Clay, call me Muhammad Ali. And then it's stuck. That's nationality right there. But nobody's gonna use that as the example. They're gonna say, oh yeah, he was a Nation of Islam member, right? And he was trying to not go in the draft and what? No, once he proclaimed his nationality, draft don't apply to him. Period. But if people don't have the background history of Elijah Muhammad being Elijah Poole Bey and Fard being David Ford L and them being part of the temple, then they think Elijah Muhammad and Fard from 1930. Then they move on from there, which comes back to the whole thing about the due diligence, because, you know, if you know, they tried to bury that picture of Elijah Muhammad in his fez. You know, like that's not a picture that's supposed to be in the public. Like that's, you know, somebody resurrected that picture that had it in their vault or whatever. But that's not something that's supposed to be common out there. People, oh yeah, Elijah Muhammad in a fez, a picture pop up with him in a fez, holding the Quran and all that type of stuff. You know what I mean? Right?
That's online?
Yeah. Elijah Muhammad wearing a fez. Just Google that and then the picture will come up. Right? So we have to, like the brother's saying, once we get out of the child mentality, then we can move forward and get some work done. Right? But majority of our people want to keep the child mentality and then get work done. When, you know, you give a child a hammer, you're not going to do nothing but mash up the house. Right? And that's all that's going to happen. And you can't go there, oh yeah, discipline the child because, you know, you broke stuff with the hammer. Like, why you give a child a hammer for? Right? Yeah. You know what I mean? Right? So with regard to that first picture that we showed, this was the write-up that goes with that picture. This is this is from the site, so, you know, we're gonna deal with some of the terminology that's in here that's fraud, but we'll see where we're going. White historians, in their bid to make ancient European seem white, have chosen to ignore the obvious relationships that must have existed between Berbers and the people of Iberia. When Grimaldi crossed Gibraltar Straits to enter Europe, all of his kind did not follow. When humans move to new territories, most stay behind in the old territory, and they maintain their relationships. There is always back and forth travel for trade and communication. It is against this backdrop that the Berber invasion of Iberia must be viewed. The Berbers did not enter Iberia as destroyers, they entered as builders. Thus, after Muhammad's Islamic army took Egypt in 640 AD and then went on to conquer all of North Africa, the Berbers no doubt saw this new quote-unquote black army as an opportunity. So rather than fight, the Berbers joined forces with the Islamic army. In 711 AD, a Berber army led by General Tariq ibn Zayed invaded Iberia, Spain, and overthrew the White Visigoths, Western Goths, who were one of the two main branches of the Goths, an Eastern Germanic tribe who over the period of only 100 years had migrated from Eastern Europe through Greece, through Italy, and finally down into the Iberian Peninsula. know, show their how hard they go, right? Like when you do the research on the Visigoths, and you see how hard they went in their conquering mentality. You know, they didn't play around. 100 years they went from Eastern Europe through Greece, through Italy, and finally down to the Iberian Peninsula. In 100 years, what Moors do what Noble Drew Ali brought? Like nothing, right? Brother Dawood was talking about, you know, with the Israelis have the 500-year plan, that they look 500 years ahead.
Was it Israelis or Jews?
Was it
Israeli.
Was alien?
Yeah,
Yeah. Right. In Iberia, Spain, and Portugal, the Berbers, now known as Moors, created a highly advanced civilization and culture, famous for its art, architecture, and centers of learning. While having rule over Spain, the Berbers, who themselves 50 years earlier had been forced to accept Islam, now sometimes forced the inhabitants of Iberia to do the same. Though the number of original Moors remained small, many native Iberian inhabitants converted to Islam. According to Ronald Segal, some 5.6 million of Iberia's 7 million inhabitants were Muslim by 1200 AD, virtually all of them native inhabitants. According to historian Richard A. Fletcher, the number of Arabs who settled in Iberia was very small. There were about 900,000 Berbers and about 90,000 Arabs in Iberia. Right? So that little article trumps everybody's perspective that Berbers are Arabs and whatever. Right? Berbers are Moors. Right? And Arabs are Moors too. Because Dr. Ben said that in Black Man in the Nile. That the African Moors and the African Arabs, or the Arab Moors and the African Moors was the terms that he called these people. He didn't leave Moors off of them. Why? Because Dr. Ben is doctorate in Moorish history from University of Spain. So he has the full perspective. Right? He knows what's up. It's not that he doesn't know. He might not put it out there as it should have been put out there, but he was taught. Right? So when you go and you check these so-called nations that were fighting against the Moors, Castile, Aragon, and these people, right? So the coat of arms of Aragon. This is the coat of arms of Aragon after they kicked the Moors out of Spain, right? Now you see they have the Moors down here, right? And they're under a tree with a cross in it, right? So we can see that the Moors represents the roots, right? The Moors are underground. The Moors are under the tree, buried, right? And the Christian powers never ever show themselves. All they do is show symbols, right? Because they don't have a self to show, really, right? If they are to, back then, if they're to present themselves, they're gonna have to present themselves in their official position, which is, you know, illiterate, shoeless, clothless, etc. Like they weren't kings and queens until they kicked the Moors out of Spain. After they kicked the Moors out of Spain, that's when they were able to get all their wealth, because every single European nation on the planet has a Moor's head on their coat of arms, right? From Germany, France, like everybody, right? So, right? So coat of arms of Aragon, right? And then this is another variation of the coat of arms. And then again, we have the European king, and then the Moor without his crown, because the European took it, and now he has a bandana on or whatever, right? And again, Moors have to step up and present what they know, or we're not gonna get out of this. Like, it's not gonna happen that we get out of this if the Moors don't step up and do what they're supposed to do, right? The Majorca family crest. Majorca or Mallorca is an island located in the Mediterranean Sea. It is the largest island in the Balearic Islands archipelago in Spain, right? And then this is their crest. And their crest is a Moor with a turban, scimitar behind them, and then you have the ship to represent the first navigators, right? Now this is the Majorca family crest in Spain. Everybody needs to have some connection to the Moors in their culture in order for them to even claim that they have a culture. Like everybody. You go to Hindustan, they're going to tell you about the Mauryan dynasty, right? If you go to, Europe, they'll tell you, German and Freising and all that type of stuff, right? Coat of arms of Alcandre, La Rioja, Spain, right? Coat of arms of Alcandre, La Rioja, Spain, depicting heads of slain Moors, right? So this is this one now. So imagine these guys are going around Europe with this as their crest, right? Like blood dripping from their heads and all that type of stuff. Going around the world, conquering the world with this imagery, right?
Something to say though, what I've realized, seems to notice that all the Moors' heads are facing to the left.
Right.
And the left side, isn't the left supposed to represent death? When I sort of, in something I was reading, I remember saying that the left, I can't remember what book it was talking about, it says that death always comes on your left side.
For real, right.
But what you're noticing is that all the heads
are
all facing left.
Right.
I've yet to see a head facing right.
Let's put it in the perspective of what Noble Drew Ali said.
Oh, just also to interrupt, when you were talking about all those other people, when I stepped out, I had to meet my ex-girlfriend, and she's like, well, what are you doing here? So I'm taking a Moorish national class. She's like, the Moors? She's like, well, I'm from Madeira. There were Moors in Madeira. She's like, so what, we're related? I said, yeah. So what's quite interesting is that they all know, right? They all know.
Everybody knows except us.
That's right.
Yeah, I had a similar situation with my sister, because her boyfriend is Italian, and he was saying how he had African in his family or whatever, right? And I corrected him and said the Moors, and he's like, oh yeah, that's what you call them. I was like, yeah. And he actually has family, I think, associated with like those court judges and whatever.
Right.
You know how they make those deals and whatnot.
Yeah.
Right? He's telling me about that. Interesting.
Yeah. Because when you brought up the face on the left.
Yeah, I
right?
find that interesting because, as I said, I was reading some book that was representing how death comes on your left.
Now let's look at it from the perspective of a map.
Facing
what's left on the map? West.
So maybe it's not death; it's facing home.
So they're facing home.
Right.
In all these depictions of them. Right. And it's a standard, just like you say. If anytime you see the Moor head, they're facing left. You occasionally might have one facing you,
Forward, yeah.
facing forward, but majority of them, whether they're standing, sitting, whether it's just the head, they're facing home.
Of course. Which is probably much more significant because you would be looking at the compass in a sense, right?
Right.
All of it, right? So
Right.
that would be west would be
West. Exactly.
And
Right.
just to add on to that, because I was reading the other day about the caliphates, the caliphs, right?
Yeah.
And they referred to the West as the Maghrib, right, where the sun sets,
Right.
right? And I was making the connection with Moor because Moor means, or some people say Moor means dark, and I connected that to the hidden sun, right, setting sun,
Right.
basically.
Right. Exactly. Right. Also, too, on this, we have the fleur de lis. Right. It's the same symbol that they have on the Quebec flag. Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. We went to Montreal, and here's the tag. But if you notice, it's sort of the same thing as without the Moor's head.
Without the Moors on it, right?
Right, but it's the same as England.
Right.
It's that England flag.
Right. That red.
Which really should really have the Moors' heads
Right.
on each of the corners, right?
Exactly. Right. And also, too, remember, it's because they don't have anything of their own, they have to graft themselves
That's right.
into our stuff.
That's right.
And the best way for them to graft themselves into our stuff is to just use our stuff. Right?
They have no history.
Because they have none. Right? It's nothing,
They can't.
derogatory to them or whatever. That's just what it is. You don't have any. You came from the Caucasus Mountains. Like, what history you have?
Well, also, what you
Right.
realize is half of the history is us.
Exactly.
If they're hybrids,
Right.
the one side is, let's say, their beginning. The other side is us.
Right. And this is why.
And that's the only one that has culture.
Right. And that's why, just to connect with what you're saying too, that's why the sun never sets on the British Empire. Because the British Empire is really the Moorish Empire. Right?
Okay.
And they adopted it, they usurped it, whatever it is they did to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's in their possession right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the sun's not setting on that because...
Yeah, it says that the sun never sets on any part of the British.
right? Right? Now, Article 38 of Code Noir, which is the black codes that they used in Canada,
Mm-hmm.
right? Before the black codes of 17...
What year was
24.
this, you
The Code Noir was 1680 something,
Okay.
right? So Article 38, the fugitive slave who has been on the run for 1 month from the day his master reported him to the police shall have his ears cut off and shall be branded with a fleur de lis on one shoulder. If he commits the same infraction for another month, again counting from the day he is reported, he shall have his hamstring cut and be branded with a fleur de lis on the other shoulder. The third time he shall be put to death. Right? So it's a repetitive theme when dealing with Moors, conscious or unconscious, that they have to invoke
Their nationality.
they have to invoke the ones who are doing the abusing of the Moors have to invoke Spanish Inquisition practices, Christian Black Code practices, Code Noir practices, because they know that they can't really defeat the Moors really, right? Most they can do is just torture you a little bit, put you in the hole for a little bit, cut your hamstring, brand you, etc. Because they can't really get rid of the Moors. Right? The Moors are here, they're gonna be here. You can't, it's like when they do the roach extermination, whatever, right? And the roaches just adopt the poison,
And move on.
and they keep going,
Yeah.
right? Or they adapt.
That's right.
Right, to the poison,
Right.
and they just keep going. You're not gonna get rid of roaches. just it's just not gonna happen. You know, those are gonna live forever. They're always gonna be here. They always been here, right? Okay. Now this was a interesting map. This was a map. The map's called Middle America, right? Called Middle America, and again ties right back into what Noble Drew Ali said. The dominion and habitation extended from northeast, southwest Africa, across Great Atlantis, even unto the present North, South, Central America, also Mexico and the Atlantis Islands. So the Atlantis Islands are on this map, and on this map called Middle America, mainland versus rimland, right? So if you look at this map right here, okay, let's show the legend first. So they have the legend at the bottom, right? And the legend is saying that, you know, the yellow represents Arawak. Think like red or something represents Carib. The black represents Aztec. The brown represents Maya. Then it says Spanish, French, Dutch, and British. And then when you go onto the map, it has the outline of, you know, what jurisdiction is where, right? So they have Cuba in the Spanish color. They have Haiti in the French color. Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico in the Spanish color. Saint Martin, Saint Eustatius in the Dutch color. Guadeloupe, Martinique in the French color. But then when you get to Jamaica, that's the Arawak color. And then Trinidad and Tobago is the Carib color. Right? And then all of those, all the islands are in a black circle that represents the Aztecs. Right? So letting the people know that all those people in the Caribbean islands or whatever, they're indigenous. And they're not, you know, they're not West Indians, if you will. Right? They're actually indigenous people, and, you know, based on this map, based on this map, they know. So again, the map's called, you can probably just Google it, Middle America is the name of the map. And it says mainland versus rimland at the top of the map, right? Oh, and also Bahamas is also in the Arawak jurisdiction, right? Now, when you go, now they also show South America, right? They show Peru and all that. They even have Tikal up in here. And that's in the Maya section, right? Netherlands, Antilles, Aruba, Curacao, Bonaire, all that's Aztec.
Well, you know what, I have a problem with that though. And the problem is the
Well, could you
Aztecs-
talk up a little bit so we can...
The problem I have with that is that the Aztecs say they came here, they took a boat over, and they saw our people here.
Right.
Because a lot of people, from what you just mentioned, like even online, a lot of people from, say, Jamaica, Cuba, they think that one girl said that, showed a picture of, like, say, light-skinned Indians that look Spanish.
Yeah.
Oh, those are the original people in the islands, and that's my family. And
Yeah.
I'm like, hell to the no.
Yeah.
You know, and she's like bragging. I'm like, no, you have it backwards.
Yeah.
So by just listening to this, I understand what you're saying, but I still have a
Yeah,
few
the terms,
issues with it.
yeah, that's why, you know,
I still
that's why I was saying that, you know, we'll in reading,
sorry,
in reading the literature that we have, right, we're gonna accommodate the terms.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Just because, you know, we already know what's good, right? But since it's there, we'll just put it out there, right? Now, also to add on to with what you're saying, that's what we were talking about earlier with not getting out of the minority mindset before you start going into all these studies, looking at maps and reading all these books or whatever, because you're going to get lost. Because you're going to read Berber, you not know what it is, think those are some pale people.
And
You're going to read, huh?
They call themselves the Amazigh, right?
Right. Right? You're gonna find so much information that's contradictory to what you have in your mind that, you know, you're guaranteed to get lost.
Well, that's part of the
Right, the
That's
part of the plan,
That's
right?
why we need to study language.
Right.
Oh, language is a big one.
Yeah.
I hate
Right.
my language.
That
To
dawned on
a
me
T.
recently as well.
Hands down.
How big that is.
English, you're saying?
English, I
Right.
don't like it one bit.
Yeah.
I never did.
But again, remember too that certain things were put in place so that everything could be common to everybody, right? So where was it again? Where were we? Where were we again?
You just finished talking.
We're somewhere.
The middleman.
We're somewhere talking with somebody who doesn't speak English, right? And then we spoke English, and then we're talking in English. I think Tallahassee was telling this story, right? Now he's talking to the person in English, and then they actually could relate to what he was saying, and he could understand what they're saying without even knowing that language, right? Because the English language is easiest language to learn, right?
Some people beg to differ
Right.
on that. It's
Well,
kind of difficult.
It depends on,
compared to word. A lot of people
like,
have English as a second language.
right,
They actually say it's a lot harder
that is
than
harder,
learning
right,
other
because of all the
languages.
different you know, figures of speech and
But-
letters and
Yeah.
words
With
and all that
English,
stuff, right?
to me, English is too, can I say, misleading.
Mm.
Like the English language.
Yeah, but that's
It's
because
misleading. Like all the
It's
words.
not that the language is misleading, but it's the way that people use it, right? Because the terms that people are using nowadays, they're not defined properly in dictionaries and whatnot.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like that's why I'm
Yeah.
saying it's
But we can correct
misleading.
that easily.
yeah,
Is because we're not using the words the way it
that
was
they were meant
meant
to be,
used.
right,
We use words and it's like so removed
Right,
from the
and-
meaning of the
and-
word.
and all
it's
that
like,
all that comes back to the same thing about Moors not doing their job for 100 years. If Moors would have told people, you know, okay, well, we have this language, this bastard language, make sure you get some etymology dictionaries and stuff like that so you can know what stuff means, then we would be further ahead as far as our,
Exactly, and that's where
deliberation.
I'm going with it too,
Yeah, right?
That's where I'm going with it.
you know. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it is, you know, the most bastard language, you know. But again, you know, Noble Ali didn't come speaking Arabic or nothing like that.
Mhm.
You know, he was speaking English for a reason, right? To make everything that easy. You're not Negro black colored. You know, Negro is black in Spanish, right? So you know, Spanish is in there. You know, he even told the Moors, you know, if Moors are gonna take up a second language, learn Spanish, right? Since we're speaking about Spanish, during the course
I'm just saying, I'm sorry. I'm a little
Du-
picky when it comes
during the course of the Spanish Inquisition, Jews and Moors were systematically persecuted, and for more than 300 years, coercive measures were taken against any non-Catholics on the Iberian Peninsula. In the late Middle Ages, the Roman Inquisition was already being used by the Church as an instrument to combat heresy. One of its most famous victims was Galileo Galilei, who in 1633 was sentenced to life imprisonment, later commuted to lifelong house arrest. The Roman Catholic Church did not publicly rehabilitate him until 1992. The Spanish and Roman Inquisitions differed significantly. Isabella I and Ferdinand II demanded from Pope Sixtus an autonomous instrument of investigation to be used exclusively at the monarch's discretion. A special board of inquisitors was therefore established to act independently of Rome, imposing punitive measures on Jews and Moors and putting Jews who had converted to Christianity under special surveillance. Such conversos, converted Jews, were suspected of continuing to practice their former religion clandestinely. A large-scale persecution of this group saw half of its members burnt at the stake in a public show trial, and auto de fe, as a symbol of stigmatization, they had to wear a karoja, a special pointed cap, dunce cap, right? As a symbol of stigmatization, same thing that they do with the dunce cap, right? Stigmatize you. In Spain, the Inquisition adhered to a strict pattern. On the basis of witness testimonials, a suspect was accused of lacking in devoutness and issued a dire warning, to be followed by an interrogation should he or she ignore this warning. The only way to refute the accusation was to give generous donations. Right? So we're talking about the same how they get their wealth. Right? How they get their wealth. Interrogation. The only way to refute the accusation was to give generous donations. So if you there's a book called The Spanish Inquisition by, I think the guy's last name is Camden, Kamden, and he talks about how there was so much wealth with the Moors in Spain that when they pretty much banished the Moors from Spain, the ones who didn't go back to North Africa and come back over here and all that, the ones that stayed over there and tried to do the disguise of being converted, right? Those Moors lost pretty much everything that they had, right? And you know, it's no different than today with Ward of the Crown. If you're Ward of the Crown, anything you own goes to the Crown, and you don't have any say about it. You can't do anything about it. That's just how it goes, right?
Confiscation of property.
Right, confiscation of property. Now, they were master at making sure that they get everything, right? Because remember, they have nothing, so anything they get is a bonus, right? This is why Columbus had ships to come over here. This is why Columbus had crew. This is why Columbus's crew spoke Arabic and all these different languages, right? Because if the Moors, like even if we look at it today, right? Like with the situation that we had 4 years ago, right? There was Moors that were in our classes that had a situation with Children's Aid, right? Those same Moors who were in our classes were the ones that they converted to get them on their side so they can get them to try to do something to us, slander us, pull us down.
Was there a news story
right?
on that?
Yeah, right?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's just look up Kudro Adwell and malnourished child, and then all the stuff should come.
Okay,
all the stuff should come
I
up,
think
right?
I remember that.
Right?
Okay, I remember that.
And this is the tactic that they use. You identify the weakest link, right? And you take that link out the chain, right? Sweeten it up a little bit and put that link back. And the hope is that link is going to be the weakest link in that chain. But what outsiders don't know is that, you know, like the Moorish jurisdiction is a tight jurisdiction, right? Because the key of Moorish nationality and birthright and you know, this area of study is know thyself. And if you don't know yourself, then that's your fault. That's your problem, right? It doesn't fall on us. Like if somebody went out there, did some craziness, and then said, "Oh yeah, I'm a Moor. I belong to a temple or whatever in Canaanland." That has nothing to do with us. You know, we have strict protocols, guidelines we're supposed to follow. So if you choose not to follow those, you're on your own. No different than, you know, Moors come into the movement, and then they hear certain people talk about, you know, own the straw man, and everybody gets excited because now, you know, they can discharge their debts and they don't have any more debts. All you gotta do is just write this thing on this paper, and these guys are gonna discharge your debt. And then they get down with that stuff. Well, you're on your own.
Is that not like excommunication, basically?
Well, yeah, but
because they're violating principles.
Right, they're violating principles. So they ultimately excommunicate themselves.
Yeah.
Right? Because, you know, our job is to uplift all humanity. Our job is to bring people in. But when you're brought in, here's the guidelines, you know, divine constitution and bylaws, you know, here's the flyers, here's Circle 7, here's, you know, this is what you're supposed to follow. Well, you know, Noble Jwali, you know, that was back then. I'm reading the Circle 7 and, you know, thou this and, you know, this is like Christianity. I don't want to deal with this. I'm going to go follow something else over here. Right? While they're still in house, right? You're violating. Because there's a strict protocol when you come on this side. You know, this is not, you know, that's why Drew Ali said, it's earnestly hoped that, you know, you don't compare this to any Back to Africa movement, because this isn't that. And as soon as you try to put that perspective, you just voided everything. No different than the people who claim to be, no different than, right? So-called president, right? But front page, they're going to talk about hail to the chief. Now the chief is termed CEO, Chief Executive Officer. They're going to call it something else when they say chief commanding officer or whatever. Chief Executive Officer.
Isn't it called controlling executive officer? I think is that what CEO stands for? I don't know. I don't. Yeah, no. Sorry,
right.
It's along the same principle.
But the bottom line is that it's the head of a corporation. No different than saying president, because, you know, presidents are heads of corporations. That's all they are. Right? There's people from here, no different than 4 years ago. People from here, you know, $1.20 gas, driving down to go see inauguration of first black president, all that stuff. That has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you because that's a private corporation. It's party. Right? Taking days off work and all that stuff to go see.
I even think my mother, they were proud.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? And when we, now also too, because it said chief, it brought up something else. How come when we do our studies, as far as our people being in this land, right? Unless you talk to Moors, everybody is pushing black Indians, right? Black Indian story, the, you know, African and Native American.
This must be the new. This
right?
is the new. The next
this
10
is
years.
this is the
next
right?
name for us. Now,
right. This is the name now.
Yeah.
Right? You call, you know, because you can't be the Indians because those people are.
It was colored, Negro,
right.
black, African American, and now it's Black Indian, right?
Right. Right. Black Indians. Right. And even if you just put this online, you know, just Google Black Indians. See how much books they have on Black Indians. right?
You know what? In a sense, to me, I mean, we know better. Like,
Right,
here.
right.
But for the general public, them seeing black Indians is not going to spark something to say, wait, you mean that I'm a native? Like, it's going to connect them with the land. You understand? And then from there, it's like a lot of us went from, say, Christianity to Islam
Yeah,
to maybe Gnosticism
Right.
to this to
Right.
where you are now, right? So this might be the people that are lost, their little way of getting back home,
see, but one,
So I understand what you're saying. You can't be so drastic to some people that don't want to wake up, but if you keep hitting them over the head with something,
Yeah.
eventually
yeah, they're gonna wake
have
up.
to see it,
Yeah,
right?
they're gonna have
I
no
mean, I
choice.
don't like the idea. I'm not saying I agree with it,
Right.
but
But I also think the danger with that
it,
is
go ahead.
the danger with that is putting them in another jurisdiction yet again.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly
Right.
what's happening. But
and-
at least they'll
and maybe-
accept
and-
the
and-
Moorish
and-
teachings.
And here's what I'm sensing, right? Maybe now they'll give you, like we were talking about last week with the Isle No More.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know more. We'll give you a little bit of
Right, you get some handouts,
We'll give you a little handout,
right?
and that's just to keep, because really what their job is now is to keep us continually off of taking our nationality back.
Right.
Right.
Right, and we have to always be drawn back to King Alfred plan when it comes to this thing of, well, at least they'll be able to relate to us a little bit better if we say, Black Indian, for example, right? They'll be able to digest it a little bit easier instead of digesting Moors. Yeah, like our people. Yeah,
Okay.
right. Our
Okay.
people who aren't.
Yeah, that's what
Right?
I was
Yeah.
saying.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
But in King Alfred plan, remember that this is about the minority: blacks, Indians, Latinos, Puerto Ricans, and poor whites. And the only reason that these so-called whites are poor is because they're us, Melungians or whatever, right? He will be a formidable enemy, for he is bound to the continent by heritage. So if we're bound to the continent by heritage, then there's no way that we're Black Indians, right? But it has to be told to them that you're not that, because all these people who write these books right here, these are paid off agents.
Another thing I was thinking about too, when we were talking about some of the, when Julie was giving us our sort of instruction to create literature.
Right.
What you realize is half of the problem is TV, television.
Right.
So those are the lies there. The other half is, like you say, you can go into any bookstore or library, and you're going to have thousands upon thousands of books, which are lies.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So whether you're getting the false information through TV or through books, it's still coming.
Yep.
Right? So you're going to go pick up a book that's going to say the history of Black Indians,
Yeah.
and you're going to think that's it. But yet again, it's another misdirection.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And really, it's about not having proper literature.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right. Also, too, you can Google Art T. Burton. Art T. Burton, and there's an article online called "American Indians as Slave Owners." And when you go into that part of the history, there's books and books and books and books on that these so-called Indians actually had slaves, and they were selling them to the European and all that, right? Another reason why you want to get caught up in the whole Black Indian thing, because now you're saying that you're a slave master, but then you're saying before you found out about Black Indians, you're condemning those actions, right? In a match against Arsenal, the Queen's Park Rangers Moroccan-born player Adel Tarabt donned his distinctive red fez following the scoring of a goal. His fellow players immediately gathered around, warmly congratulating him for the act. So asked was the referee. That's the guy. That's the name of the referee. S.O. Last name A.G.H.A.S.T. Was the referee by this act of elegance that he instantly showed the player a yellow card and gave a warning as to his future behavior. So confused was the referee by this outbreak on the soccer pitch that the muddle-headed official displayed the card towards the fez rather than toward the player. Whilst we might make light of such events, we must remember the effect of wearing a fez may have upon the crowd watching these events unfold. Concerned fathers shielded their children from the scene, whispering comforting words such as nylon and hoodies, whilst promising rich gifts of fast food and logo-splattered sportswear. Right? So this is the picture of the brother scoring the goal, and then the picture is, don't wait to make your son a great man. Make him a great boy.
Sorry, say that one more time.
Don't wait to make your son a great man. Make him a great boy.
Okay.
Right? And then this is how they have the little youth man.
Wow. Okay.
Going back to that theme that everybody knows what's up. Everybody knows the power of Moorish nationality except unconscious Moors. Which is why we don't get anywhere. Because we've been super lax in knowing who we are. Right? Now let's get down to the prophet a little bit. So Noble Drew Ali.
Oh, I was
Go ahead.
watching another one of these Taj videos. He was talking about dogma.
Right.
Reverse dogma. I'm saying reverse it.
Mhm.
Spell it. Let's see what it spells. A-N-G-O.
God.
Or something else,
Right.
God, right?
Yeah.
Well, in Roman Catholicism, it's the Pope that
Right.
you make God, right?
Right.
And isn't it interesting? The dogma, which is the false religion, spelled backwards,
Spelled backwards
is
is
am God.
I'm God.
Right. So I don't know. As I say, I
Good,
don't
good
know.
observation.
So anyway, yeah.
Right. So since we're going to read this this writing by the prophet called "What is Islam?" Right? Because I was having this big thing with this brother yesterday about sent out this message. You know, there's a little text. You know, the people don't send the happy face and have a good day or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
So he sent something about the Quran of Mecca is the greatest
Yeah.
Quran in the world.
You're
And,
talking about this Coran or no,
yeah,
right?
the Qura.
Q. Yeah. Sorry, Q.
Right? Quran is the best book, and Muhammad is the last prophet and all this type of stuff, right?
Uh-oh.
So I was trying to tell him, well, what happened to Noble Drew Ali? And
Yeah.
like he came after Muhammad.
Yeah.
He's called prophet. Like,
Yeah.
why you back him?
Yeah.
No, oh well, that's not really Islam and right, whatever, right? So, what is Islam?
Okay.
Right, this is the prophet's words, right? Islam is a very simple faith. It requires man to recognize his duties toward God Allah, his creator, and his fellow creatures. It teaches the supreme duty of living at peace with one's surroundings. It is preeminently the religion of peace. The very name Islam means peace. The goal of a man's life, according to Islam, is peace with everything, peace with Allah, and peace with man. The Quran, the holy book of Islam, it's K-O-R-A-N that he spells.
Yeah.
Right.
So say that last part there. Just the last sentence.
The goal of a man's life, according to Islam, is peace with everything.
Uh-huh.
Peace with Allah and peace with man.
Uh-huh.
The Quran, the holy book of Islam, tells us that the final abode of man is the house of peace, where no vain word or sinful discourse will be heard. The Holy Divine Prophet Noble Ali says that a follower of Islam in the true sense of the word is one whose hands, tongues, and thoughts do not hurt others. Object of man's life, according to Islam, is its complete unfoldment. Islam teaches that man is born with unlimited capacities for progress. Islam does not support the idea that man was born in sin. It teaches that everyone has within him the seed of perfect development, and it rests solely within himself to make or mar his fortune. The cardinal doctrine of Islam is the unity of the Father, Allah. We believe in one God, Allah, who is all God, all mercy, and all power. He is perfect and holy, all wisdom, all knowledge, and all truth. These are some of his great attributes so far as we can understand. He is free from all defects, holy and transcendent. He is personal to us in so far as we see his attributes working for us and in us, but he is nevertheless impersonal. Because he is finite, perfect, and holy, we do not believe that death, decay, or sleep overtake him. Neither do we believe that he is a helpless, inactive, and inert force. Nothing happens without his knowledge and will. He neither begets nor is he begotten, because these are the traits of frail and weak humanity. This unity of Allah is the first and foremost pillar of Islam, and every other belief hangs upon it. Right? So ultimately, what is Islam? It is the religion of peace. Right? And for our people in general, we haven't been peaceful people. This is why he brought this for us. Because, you know, Islam, I salam. Right? I am peace.
That's what that means?
Salam.
Peace, right?
Right? We are not a peaceful people. We look around at our, you know, in our communities or whatever, you know, obviously we're not peaceful people, right? We cause more destruction than anybody out here, and never take responsibility for the destruction that we cause. Right? Always, oh yeah, no, because we lost our culture, the white man did it or whatever, right? But it's you know, like, Islam does not support the idea that man was born in sin.
It's interesting you say that. I was reading a book that I was wanting to get you. KRS-One wrote this book, and he was talking about that. Basically, it's our own treatment of ourselves that allows these foreigners to come into our communities.
Right.
And if we stole the virtues that we wanted in our community, they would have no business there.
Right.
That's really a lot of this responsibility was the European.
Right.
What I realized, it's all ours, right? And slavery as well is a cooperative thing,
Right.
right? So as long as we take and we live by, and that's why some of the stuff, I was hearing Secretary talk about our last meeting about sort of doing some things that he's wanting to change.
Yeah.
And I look at my life and think about some of the things I've done to sort of get by, or to whatever in this to make an easy life.
Yeah.
But the reality behind it is that is causing more damage than good.
Then good.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So being that we're going into this connection that we have with Allah, God, Creator, whatever, right? This connection that we have was explained in great detail in the first chapter of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple, right? The creation and fall of man.
The ethers and
Right. Finite things will cease to be because there was a time when they were not. The bodies and the souls of men are finite things, and they will change. Yea, from the finite point of view, the time will come when there will be no more. But man himself is not the body nor the soul. He is the spirit and part of Allah. Creative fate gave to spirit man, a soul, that he might function on the plane of soul. Gave him a body of flesh, that he might function on the plane of things made manifest. Why did creative fate give to spirit man a soul, that he might function on the plane of soul? Why did creative fate give to soul a body of the flesh, that he might function on the plane of things that are made manifest? Hear ye now, cherubim, seraphim, angels, and men. Hear now, O protoplas and earth, and plant and beast. Hear now, ye creeping things of earth, fish that swim, ye birds that fly. Hear they are not measured up by time, for things that are concerned with time begin and end. This is why, like Tallahassee says, don't celebrate my birthday. Right? Because things concerned with time begin and end. That's why Tallahassee looks like 20. He's 50 years old.
clocks.
Yeah.
You know, if you go down to City Hall downtown, there's
Right.
a clock.
Right.
It's always the four sides. Like the clock in North York Center.
Yeah.
They always have a clock there.
Yeah.
I found that interesting, wondering why time was so important.
Right.
And I think that speaks to that, right?
It speaks to this right here. Yeah. Get the people
focused on that.
Yeah. Right. Plus they have the thing on bang
right.
in every hour
too, right?
You're getting
that Pavlovian response of when the bell rings, it's time to do something.
It's time to do something, right? And also too, remember that whole attachment. Potencies of Allah. Just as the seed of any plant of earth holds deep within itself the attributes of every part of that especial plant, so spirit man, as seed of Allah, held deep within himself the attributes of every part of Allah. Now seeds are perfect. heart of Allah was full ordained to be the Lord of the plane of soul and of the plane of things made manifest. So Allah, the husbandman of everything that is, threw forth his human of life are manifest. The perfumes and the odors, the true sensations, and the all of love are manifest. And these soul attributes become a body beautiful. A multitude of lessons man must learn upon the plane of soul. Flesh. Perfected man must pass through all the ways of life, and so a carnal nature was full manifest, a nature that sprang forth from fleshly things. Without a foe, a soldier never knows his strength. And peace, but he gave up his birthrights just to gratify his lower self. But man will regain his lost estate, his heritage, but he must do it in a conflict that cannot be told in words. Yea, he must suffer trials and temptations manifold, but let him know that cherubim and seraphim that rule the stations of the sun and spirit of the purpose have served this purpose well and will fall, will be no more. Then he will stand untrammeled on the plane of soul, where he must full complete his victories. Unnumbered and while Allah lives, man cannot die. When man has conquered every foe upon the plane of soul, the seed will have fully opened out, will have unfolded in the holy breath. The garb of soul will then have served its purpose well, and man will need it nevermore, and it will pass and be no more. And man
Human body, faith is the soul, and fruition is Allah.
right,
So that's what's come to me
right,
just in this speaking, because they talk about these 3 steps, right?
exactly.
Belief being the fact that we are man, but in the body. We have to overcome the lower self,
The lower self.
right?
Right.
Faith is no
Our people, that's probably the biggest lesson that they ought to learn. Jagannath was one who loved the Jewish boy. Lamas Brahmis was the name by which the priest was known. One day, as Jesus and has no cause, and yet it is the cause of everything. False is not, and yet it is the manifest of right. Whatever has been made will be un. The holy breath is truth, is that which was and evermore shall be. It cannot change nor pass away. Lamas power, and Jesus says it is a manifest. It is the result of force. It is but not. It is illusion, nothing more. Force changes not, but power changes. These powers to be, and thought of Elohim, of angel, man, or other thinking things directs the force. The sensing of the powers of man himself. Again, Lamas asks, of wisdom what do you have to say? And right,
You have to
Right.
just understand that all of that is man-made, right?
right.
What's interesting, sorry to just jump in
No,
there,
go ahead, go ahead.
that, I was reading, I think it was one of the, like, and the devil never sort of, and how come God is always broke?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? These kind
Yeah.
of things, right? So it speaks to this stuff sort of all being an internal.
and Jesus says faith is the surety of the omnipotence of Allah and man, the certainty that man will reach. This is what man thinks perhaps is truth, and faith is next, and this is what man knows is truth. Muslim brother that was here last week, right? That came in.
Did I miss it?
And you were here last week. I don't know more. You weren't here for that. And you go to the Quran or whatever. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
You know, and then we go in this, okay, well, yo, this is what, you know, Allah and man are one. Okay, well, how, you know, like, how? You know,
That's what he's saying?
Yeah, that's what he's saying, right? Okay, so if you know, if the Imam is only talking about belief to me, right?
He's really talking about the lowest form. What I've realized when I read this Quran, how really, it seems to me all the lessons are here.
Right,
You don't need more than these.
right.
Yet, this is maybe what, how many pages there?
Yeah.
50 pages?
Yeah.
100? And then tell me what to do.
So if you read like Gnostic literature, they sort of like disseminate that because back in the day when the Christian fathers were doing what they were doing or whatever.
You were saying.
Oh yeah. But yeah, Gnostic literature
Right.
they give it to you just like how Noble Drew Ali gives it
Right.
to you. Right?
Bourgeoisie, right?
Yeah.
So this is Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali, Misunderstandings of the purpose and instructions. However, any student or scholar who examines the nature of his writings, statements, and methods of presenting information to the people can easily God focused and Dedicated people who more often than not react higher knowledge and philosophy, especially that which competed with or contradicted the Roman Inquisition. This veiled presentment of the fallen Moorish true high culture, which for generations was held back, denied, and misrepresented. It has come to be known an example of that metaphysical, ancient, Moabite, Moorish cosmology culture is veiled in open sight. Manifold. But let him know that cherubim and seraphim that rule the stations of the sun and spirit of the mighty Allah who rule the solar stars are his He needs only to do his work and fulfill his mission. Humble is the way. The redeeming effects perceived and visualized for awakening and activating the enslaved, nationally dormant, and unconscious descendants of the and concentric efforts were allotted to true spiritual functional knowledge in ancient Moabite Moorish cultural disciplines, prudent and proven governmental and civil emphasis was put on Moors to become active and to take our places among the affairs of men. slavery and bound freemen period in modern North Central and South American histories under colonial planet, not just one area or continent. Of the Eastern Hemisphere. The factual natal name Moor European colonial slaveholders and for mental and social dehumanizing advantage. Such as have the nature of freehold status. Chattel, which is also spelled Catel, C-A-T-E-L, is of the Negro status laid the illusory groundwork needed by them for the colorable erection and construction the Negro status in its social nature of the sortilege use of the legal fiction time periods. The medieval period generally refers to by Europeans into the Moroccan Empire of the West, the Americas.
So instead of just giving them
That's really the salvation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know.
You know? We're actually connected to the higher force, and that it's not out there and we don't have any, relations with it. You know what I mean? Like we have. Regular, like we're talking about on the lecture day, like every. At and it's at more of an alarming. Oh no, facts are there, pictures are there, you still don't want it.
Yeah, I know. So I do have some questions I wrote up, and I'm glad you asked me to come with questions.
No, for sure, for sure. Let's touch.
Worldwide.
Oh, there's repeat that again.
Are there more powers? In my mind that
How you can distinguish.
Yeah. Guyana, their charter king. I think I guess
Would have to be democratic. like, you know, you and I come in here and we're fighting. That's sort of like the dilemma that they got themselves into by claiming to be democracy.
Yeah, just to touch on that, I was reading that the reason
Security and Exchange Commission. A good way to know who's democratic and all that stuff is the Olympics, because the Olympics. Maybe like 6 people, right? Exactly. Because and then what's the next? Oh yeah, with the central.
yeah,
Right?
all right.
And they're in violation in the level of um, if we go to a court, de facto, whatever, right? We go to this. Officer's job is to enforce that office,
Yeah.
right?
Basically, he only comes to foreclose on,
Then that's all he does.
on mortgages. That's not
all he
mortgages,
does.
on housing, on tenant stuff.
paper, the currency's paper, currency's plastic. No, they stepped up. Islam to the Moors online for being on board. We just want to run through again. Sunday, January 27, 2013, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. To 7 p.m. Info 647-748-666. Five on the left, two on the right.